Do you like to think about the notion of losing your body and have someone take it over, almost like you're a puppet? What do you mean you don't? You're here, you clicked on a title about exorcism, of course you like to think about it. Hi, I'm V, and today I'll be leading your curious craniums through the top 10 exorcism cases that were hidden by the Catholic Church. Number 10. Roland Doe. Starting off with what may be the most famous exorcism of all time, we have the case of Roland Doe, the inspiration for the 1973 film The Exorcist. In 1949, Roland, a young boy from Maryland, began experiencing disturbing phenomena in the form of strange noises, objects moving on their own, and inexplicable scratches appearing everywhere on his body. His family, fearing something supernatural was at play, sought help from medical professionals, but no relief was ever found. Eventually, the case caught the attention of priests, particularly Father William S. Bowdern, who was convinced that Roland was possessed by a malevolent spirit. A series of exorcism rituals were performed, during which Roland displayed extreme strength and aggressive outbursts. It was reported that during one exorcism, strange words and symbols even appeared on Roland's body. After numerous sessions, the exorcism was deemed successful and Roland's ordeal ended. He went on to lead a normal life. Some even went on to describe him as ordinary. Number 9. Michael Taylor. The exorcism of Michael Taylor is a very controversial case that unfolded in the UK in 1974. It centers around Michael Taylor, a middle-aged man living in the town of Ossett, West Yorkshire. It began when Taylor joined a local religious group led by Marie Robinson, which had been involved in charismatic and evangelical activities. Over time, Taylor's behavior became extremely erratic and aggressive, which was very out of character. He exhibited clear signs of possession, including speaking in strange languages, demonstrating superhuman strength, and showing a profound aversion to religious symbols. Honestly, that just sounds like me 5 minutes after I wake up. A local priest named Father Peter Vincent and a group of fellow Christians decided to perform an exorcism on Taylor. Exorcism took place over several days, during which Taylor displayed extreme violence and exhibited bizarre behavior. Tragically, at the end of the exorcism, Taylor was found in a courtyard standing over the lifeless body of his wife, Christine Taylor. He had savagely ended her life. Michael Taylor was subsequently arrested, tried, and found not guilty by reason of insanity. His case remains a chilling example of the potential consequences of exorcisms gone terribly wrong, raising questions about the intersections of mental illness, religious fervor, and the lack of action in the healthcare system. Yeah, I got political. It's my video. I can say passive-aggressive remarks about anything I want. Number 8. Clara Germana Cele. The exorcism of Clara Germana Cele is a case of demonic possession that took place in Natal, South Africa in 1906. Clara, a girl attending a Catholic mission school, suddenly began to exhibit bizarre and terrifying behavior. Clara started speaking in languages she had never learned, demonstrating an aversion to sacred objects and symbols, and levitating above her bed. Her fellow students and the nuns at the school were horrified by her sudden and uncontrollable actions, and they suspected her of being possessed by evil spirits. I don't know how they just suspected it. Like, if someone's floating, that right there is confirmation that they're possessed. Nothing to suspect. The local priest was called in to perform an exorcism on Clara. The exorcism lasted for 2 days, during which Clara exhibited aggressive reactions and disturbing paranormal phenomena. More witnesses claimed to have seen her levitating and heard her speaking in languages she did not know. After an intense and prolonged battle, the possession was believed to have been successfully expelled from Clara, and she returned to her normal self. Number 7. George Lukens. The exorcism of George Lukens occurred in 1778 in Yatton, England. George Lukens, a man in his early 20s, began to exhibit bizarre and disturbing behavior, completely out of the blue. Symptoms included uncontrollable fits, speaking in languages he had never learned, and demonstrating great physical strength, all which terrified his family and his community. Fearing that George was possessed by evil spirits, his family sought the help of a local Methodist minister. The minister believed that Lukens was indeed possessed and decided to perform an exorcism. During the exorcism, Lukens displayed intense convulsions and uttered strange, incomprehensible phrases. The case of George Lukens gained significant attention and controversy. While some believed the exorcism was successful in casting out the spirits, others, including skeptics and medical professionals, argued that Lukens' behavior could be attributed to a mental or psychological condition. I mean, there was no levitation, so I'm split on this one. Number 6. Latoya Ammons. In late 2011, Latoya Ammons and her family moved into a rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, a seemingly peaceful neighborhood. However, in December, big black flies swarmed their screened-in porch, despite the winter chill. chill. They couldn't get rid of them no matter how hard they tried. Strange occurrences continued. Late at night, they heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking open. One night, Latoya's mother saw a shadowy figure pacing in the living room, leaving wet boot prints behind. But the strangest incident occurred in March 2012 when a girl seemingly levitated. Guys, levitation. It's clear to me that this is a legitimate exorcism case. The family's trouble led them to reach out to the local churches, but most refused to help. They even consulted clairvoyants who claimed their home was besieged by over 200 demons. Moving wasn't an option, so they tried a series of bizarre rituals. They cleaned the house with bleach and ammonia, made crosses with oil on every door and window, smeared olive oil and drew crosses on their dependents, and burned sage and sulfur throughout the house. Despite these efforts, the problems persisted, and the youngsters started acting possessed. They heard voices, saw shadows, and felt physical sensations of choking and being held down. Frustrated, they consulted their family physician, who documented delusions of ghosts and hallucinations in his notes, not believing anything supernatural was occurring in the home. One night, the family's behavior took a frightening turn when one of the youngsters was seemingly lifted and thrown into a wall, which led a call to the authorities. After months of torment from the spirits in the house, the Ammons moved to Indianapolis. The Carolina Street house, once an object of local fascination, continued to bewilder people with its strange occurrences, though the landlord remained skeptical. Number 5. The Loudon exorcisms. The Loudon exorcisms were the cause of a witchcraft trial that took place in 1634, Loudon, France. It all began when a convent of nuns collectively claimed that they had been visited and also possessed by demons. Several nuns claimed that they were having visions of their recently deceased confessor. When asked about who they thought was possessing them, their answers varied. Some said that it was a priest, others said Peter, and some said Zabulon. The nuns were acting erratically and deeply out of character for religious devotees. Physicians and apothecaries were contacted, and local magistrates were informed of the strange claims and behavior. Eventually, the Archbishop of Bordeaux was called. He ordered that the nuns be separated, thinking that they were all just experiencing a flight of mass hysteria. For a short while, it seemed that the sequestration of the possessed women worked to improve their symptoms, but the nuns' behavior began to worsen over time. They began shouting, screaming profanities, and barking, but no levitating. The convent chaplain decided that a series of exorcisms was to be conducted. The Catholic Church investigated the claims and ended up accusing a priest of summoning evil spirits. He was later convicted of sorcery, which was a crime punishable by execution, and guess what? He met a fiery end on a wooden stake. The nuns underwent exorcisms and everything did turn out okay, but it's definitely still a strange situation. Number 4. Gottliebin Dittus. The exorcism of Gottliebin Dittus is a supernatural case that occurred in the early 19th century. Gottliebin was a young woman from Germany who claimed to be possessed by demons and said she had experienced a series of bizarre and disturbing events. Gottliebin exhibited classic signs of possession, including speaking in strange languages, having aggressive outbursts, and displaying an aversion to sacred objects. No levitation though. Her exorcism took place in the small town of Mottlingen and involved numerous priests and religious figures. It attracted widespread attention, and many people flocked to the town just to witness the exorcism firsthand. The process was long and grueling, lasting several years. Gottliebin went through countless exorcisms, each aimed at expelling the evil spirits that tormented her. The events surrounding her exorcism were widely documented and scrutinized by many, who believed her to be insane rather than possessed. Society grappled with the concept of possession back then. The lengths to which people would go to free individuals from perceived demonic influence was definitely drastic. Number 3. Marchesa Irina Cornisi. The exorcism of Marchesa Irina Cornisi is a tragic event that unfolded in 2005 in Romania. She was a young nun at the Tanakum Monastery, and she was subjected to a cruel and ultimately fatal exorcism ritual. She was believed to be possessed, so a group of nuns, priests, and a monk decided to band together to rid her of the unwanted spirit inside of her. And guys, I don't know how they came to this conclusion. I mean, she wasn't even levitating. So the acts that follow are just completely uncalled for and made even worse and more heartbreaking. They believed that by expelling the demons within her, they would be able to save her soul. The exorcism involved restraining her, depriving her of food and water, and subjecting her to physical and emotional torment over the course of several days. She was found lifeless shortly after, her hands and feet bound, her mouth gagged, and her body displayed signs of dehydration and malnourishment. The authorities were alerted, and an investigation resulted in the prosecution of those involved in the exorcism. They had no proof she was ever possessed. Her tragic death raised questions and large upset surrounding the world of exorcisms. The church hoped to cover this incident, but they had already created an enraged population who craved to see further punishment allotted to those involved. Number 2. Laura. In 2015, the exorcism of a woman only referred to as Laura was broadcasted throughout Argentina. Laura had been displaying signs of a possession for weeks prior, including the most important sign, levitation. After several meetings with her priest, they came to the conclusion that the only reasonable course of action was an exorcism. Throughout the video, you are able to witness every single detail and traumatic moment. Laura is bound and she begins to bang her head and scream profanities at the priest. The priest continued on with his work, and after a while, they were able to successfully remove the entity from Laura's body. She thanks them and has claimed to this day that she remains forever grateful. Number 1. Sachiko Ito. The chilling saga of Sachiko Ito, infamously known as the Drumstick Killer, commenced in 1990. Her journey into darkness began when her husband sustained a debilitating back injury, pushing him towards a life of alcohol and gambling. This led the couple into insurmountable debt, eventually forcing them to sell their home and relocate to a different town. They briefly engaged with a religious group that was centered around spiritual faith healing. However, they were expelled for using the organization's name without permission, causing Ito's husband to vanish in 1992. Sachiko Ito, now husbandless, moved north of Tokyo and began conducting spiritual healings, escalating her claims of being a healer and psychic. Her delusions reached new heights as she declared herself a deity capable of expelling demons from people. A growing following was drawn to her, resulting in a burgeoning cult. Ito's rituals involving cruel drumstick beatings, claiming to purify the soul, grew increasingly harmful. She accused followers of being possessed and had them mercilessly harmed. In 1995, one of her followers was hospitalized with severe injuries, sparking an investigation that unveiled a horrific scene at Ito's premises. 6 decomposing bodies were discovered, bearing the marks of ritualistic harm. Ito, her daughter, Yukata Nomoto, and another follower were arrested and charged with the deaths. Ito claimed the deaths were unintentional, caused by a religious exorcism, but the trial led to her receiving a life sentence, while accomplices were also sentenced to prison. In 2012, at the age of 65, Sachiko Ito was hanged, ending her reign of terror, though the impact of her belief system lingered ominously. This one is just dark and horrible. I couldn't even throw in a joke about levitation. It's just sad. That brings us to the end of today's video. What would you do if someone around you was possessed? This may sound cold, but I would find a priest and then run for the hills. You would find me sleeping in church pews, and I'm an atheist. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed my rambling, and of course, I hope you learned something. Keep it curious. Bye!